What's going on, everyone? Zane here with Everything Vive. Want to welcome you back for another episode. Today we have some special guests. They are Amy Stewart and Joel Ogden from Construct Studio. And this is the team that brought us all The Price of Freedom, which is a free experience on Steam. And it's about, I want to say like 15 to 20 minutes. It's puzzle solving based, escape the room. Well, not really escape the room, but puzzle solving. And the best part is that it's got a very solid narrative. We talk with the team about the idea behind the narrative and how it's actually based loosely on some very, very real things that happen and true experiments and projects that were kind of, well, I mean, I won't get into it here, but you'll hear about it in the interview. And we cover quite a few topics. The Price of Freedom is actually being featured at Sundance this year at the HTC Vive booth. So this is a really cool game. Like I said, it's a free experience, so you have no reason not to get it. And we have a link to it available on Steam, and I think it's available on Viveport as well. But yeah, check it out. Listen to the interview. Let us know your thoughts if you've tried the game, and if you haven't, yeah, just get on that and enjoy it. And it's really cool to hear that they're going to have some future episodes coming out soon. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Amy and Joel, how you guys doing?
Good.
We're good.
Excellent.
Good. How are you?
We are doing great. I'm here with Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing?
I'm doing well as well.
Very cool. We are so excited to have you guys on. Thank you so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
So, well, I gave a little introduction for Price of Freedom, but for those who don't know, it's a game out on Steam right now, or it's available on Viveport as well too. But what you guys did with the game, just the puzzle solving, the narrative, everything. I'm glad we have Amy on the phone because Amy, I know you are the head of narrative. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So
yep.
If you guys wanted to just take a minute to maybe introduce yourselves and your role in the project.
All right. Well, since we started with me, yeah, I'm Amy, and I'm the lead writer, narrative designer, and the lead programmer as well.
Yeah. And then I'm Joel Ogden. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Construct Studio, and also directed The Price of Freedom. And
wrote a fair bit as well.
I also did some of the writing too.
Very cool. So if you guys just want, like, let's just maybe start from the beginning then. Where did the inspiration for the game come from, or how did the team come together? I want to give the audience a better idea of how The Price of Freedom came from the ground up.
Yeah, so we started as a graduate school research project about 2 years ago at Carnegie Melon's Entertainment Technology Center. And our whole goal was to create some sort of 360-degree video piece that could really elicit some sort of emotion from the viewer. So we started working on that, and we came up with Imago, which is a 360-degree film, which has been in a lot of film festivals. We're at SIGGRAPH with it. So we've been putting it out places, and then after that we thought to ourselves, well, we know how to make virtual reality content. Like, let's do this full time as an actual company. So we got all of our stuff together. We put together a prototype when we were out in Pittsburgh. And then came out here once we, had something that we were comfortable with, showing other people and starting to get out there. And we finished The Price of Freedom, which is our first piece as a company, in late December, and we just released that. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I think Ronnie, you got a question.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna. So that's really interesting. I think you guys are the first team that we've spoken to that started off making the 360 video content and then actually transitioned over to producing a game. Could you talk about kind of what was involved in kind of making your decision to switch over from 360 video content over to game development, and what some of those challenges were in order to pick up those skill sets if you guys didn't already have them?
Yeah, so actually it kind of came about, our third member that was on the original team, who was Chuck, worked at Weaver for a while.
Oh.
And so he did a lot of demoing. He would do, show the blue, and so he would set it up and put people in it, and they would go, oh, can I do anything? Can I, use the controllers? And he'd say, no, it's a film. You watch it. And so I think for him, that's kind of what led him to say, we really should look at interactive, which, even when we were making Imago, because we started out basically prototyping and sort of doing short experiments of what to do. And we found that people, they aren't really content to just be sort of sitting back and an observer, just being a fly on the wall. They always feel like they are a person in the space. They always feel like they, want some sort of viewpoint. And then when you go beyond that, they want to touch things. And we kind of got around that. So with our film, it's actually from the perspective of someone that has locked-in syndrome. They've lost the ability to move, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And it was sort of right. So it was sort of exploring what that would be like. But then we sort of, I think we wanted to move.
Yeah. Just that ability to, actually reach out and interact with the world around you. We felt really, kind of put you into the scene and built a stronger story if you're the one that's actually investigating and uncovering things as you go.
Mm-hmm. You get to be the protagonist. You're not sort of.
And what unique challenges does it bring? I mean, especially from the narrative, because I mean, one of the strengths of your experience is that the narrative really is steered by the player's interactions. I was just wondering, kind of how as a first time, trying to transition to that more interactive type of role. What's it like to try to tell a story where the player has more interaction and drives the narrative?
Yeah, so that took a lot of work actually. This is our fourth prototype that we had created, and tried to flesh out, and really just a lot of play testing to see where people look, what do they grab, how do they actually interact with the scene, and how do they kind of absorb that information. And one of the challenges that we found is that people, especially figuring that VR is so new. They tend to just kind of reach out, grab things, look at it for a second, and throw it over their shoulder and see what else is around.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so you might give them something important that you want them to look at, and they, in all likelihood, are not going to look at it. So our approach to get around that was to tell the story both in documents, but also in audio recordings, in video, and in the environment itself. So you can't help but at least get that core story, as you go through the experience. And then the deeper that you want to dive into it, the more that you actually want to read and experience it, then we also, allow you to do that as well, if you want to really pick up all those small details.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because it reminds me of when I first played The Price of Freedom. Literally, one of the first things I did when I think, I'm trying to remember, I think it's the second room, like you open a door and go into the second room, there's a locked door, and literally I don't think I was even really trying to figure out yet that I needed to open the door or not. I saw the vase, and because I was playing VR, I wanted to just pick it up and throw it on the floor.
Yeah.
And literally I was like, oh, a vase, picked it up, threw it on the floor. And then I looked around and I was like, oh, wait, there's a key there. I probably should open the door.
Yeah, honestly, I when I played it, and I've seen other people play it, just, or, whenever I have people over to try it out, and it's the same exact thing that Ronnie said. Like, it's one of those things where nobody's actually looking for the key yet, but they find the key because they want to play with the vase. So.
And then it instantly kind of gears your mind into, like, from that point on, I feel like I kind of understood, okay, like I see where this is going to go, like the types of things that I'm going to need to look out for, and this or that. And I guess just for any of our listeners that haven't played, The Price of Freedom it's free on Steam. So there's no reason or excuses for you not to, go and check it out before you listen to this. So please go download it, play it before you listen to the rest of it. But like,
no, we'll do our best not to spoil any of it.
Yeah, no.
The narrative is one of the best parts of the game. So.
But there's another instance where you're looking for, when you're trying to find the secret compartment, And it took me a while to I was literally I took off every book from the bookshelf. I kind of went through all of these different things before I realized oh, it's really obvious. It's right here in the middle, but it's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there was definitely a nice touch and feel to the game, and that's what Ronnie and I were actually talking about before we jumped on the call. It's just the interactiveness with the entire environment. I think just adds to that level of immersiveness, and then also I think one of my favorite things was what Ronnie was saying. Also, just the things that you have to do to drive the game forward. So, instead of hitting start, there's you have to swallow some pills in the beginning, and that to me it's just a nice touch. It makes me feel it reminds me of the Matrix or something. You're ready to jump down the rabbit hole, that type of thing. So
yeah,
very cool.
And that was definitely by design. Joel, very insistent. We will have no UI.
Yeah. I really wanted to avoid any feel of it being a video game per se, and really try to give you more of a feel of some sort of film or some sort of, I guess experience opposed to, actually seeing UI items, interacting with some sort of screen or some sort of interface, because it wouldn't really fit with the theme anyway. The time period that we're dealing with, it would feel very disjointed even to do things like teleport around the scene, unless if we did something to really, try to match that theme. So that's what led a lot of our, a lot of those design decisions. And also the content allows us to do some weirder, trippier things as well. Because this is all based on real government experiments and stuff, a lot of them with LSD and other psychedelics. It gives us some liberty to get a little bit weird with it and use that as a device to carry you through the story, and also, to do things that we have to from a design perspective to get you pointed in the right direction and doing what you have to do.
Yep.
No, that's really interesting. I did not think about that until you just mentioned it now, where there is absolutely no user interface at any point in the game. That's I mean, that's fantastic. It's one of those things where you don't notice it until it's I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but you didn't notice it and it didn't take you out of the experience, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it was
quite
so
the opposite.
It was so fluid that I didn't even notice that it wasn't there, if that makes sense. There was never a need to search for a menu option. There was never a need for, you just kind of went through the narrative, and I thought, yeah, that's really cool now thinking about it on the back end, knowing that this was kind of done on purpose.
Yeah. Well, and that's also something that we found in our prototypes pretty early on, is that every single thing that the player needs to do, you need to train them to do it. So, we had a lot more gadgets that they were interacting with, a lot harder puzzles at first. And we noticed that half of our time was spent trying to get them to, do the things that they were supposed to do on terms of using these gadgets and on terms of solving things. But it really took a lot of time away from, actually telling a story and actually immersing them in the scene. So at one point we just decided, what interactions do we really need them to have? And how can we kind of make this as natural as possible? So you jump into it and you just kind of feel like you know what to do already. So that's why we tried to incorporate elements that you see in your, normal everyday life, like, opening up the door, finding buttons, using keys, things like that, we don't need to do any training. It's things that you're already used to, and we're just, using that for a purpose to tell a story. So.
Yeah. And going off of that, because as he mentioned, we started out, we had, I think, 4 gadgets that you were supposed to use, and you spent so much time just trying to figure it out. But we ended up just taking the one gadget that people liked the most, that really seemed the most effective. And of course, that's now what's in the. I don't know if I should say just for the.
Yeah. I think I was mouthing it to Zane over here. I was like, I think I know what she's talking about, but near the end, kind of.
Near the end, yes.
Yeah, which was really cool. And something else that I was thinking when you guys were speaking, that kind of, it's one of those small touches that really, I think, probably makes a big difference in the general flow of the experience, was the fact that all of the notes and clipboards and whatnot that you end up reading while during your time in the Price of Freedom, you don't really waste any any motions that are unnecessary. So I mean, you were talking about some of those natural kind of interactions, like pressing buttons and moving objects and that sort of thing that players would just naturally and easily go and do on their own. But there were the little things that I think would have been really frustrating, but the way you guys handled them made it to where it was a non-issue, like taking the letter out of the envelope or flipping something out of the from a note, like a file folder, for example. Like every time I picked it up, it automatically kind of opened up and I it was so easy to go then and read what was there, and you didn't have to kind of fiddle around with the object or anything to get to the point of what you guys were trying to pull across. And I actually thought that was really well done.
Cool. Yeah, that was definitely our goal.
Yeah, it was really about trying to figure out what interactions are, feel really rewarding versus which ones kind of just get in your way from getting to the reward, and making sure you kind of cut out those frustrations that they're really not necessary. And, it's kind of actually like the same principles of UI, just with natural objects in the game of, making sure, good UI is invisible. So we sort of tried to make sure the interactions were relatively invisible.
And also the ergonomics of it too. So all of our stuff is built essentially to the ergonomics handbook to make sure that, people are able to access all the drawers that they're supposed to. They're able to see everything that they're supposed to. And also, that helped us to pace the experience, kind of knowing where people expect things to be in the physical world that's already around us, that we already have a guide for. And then... Yeah.
Oh, no, you can continue. I was just going to say one thing that I noticed, like in that respect, that I haven't seen in most games was in a lot of games when you tend to drop objects on the floor, it becomes really, really hard to pick them up because of the way the floor is set up. And I for some reason I noticed, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm giving credit where credit isn't due, but it seemed like for some reason it was a lot easier to pick up objects from the floor.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with that either.
Than most other games that I've played, where it can actually be a problem where you have to shut it off because it's not letting you get close enough to the floor, or like I don't know. It's just something that
yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah, that's definitely another one of those challenges.
Yeah, and that's been a hard one for us actually, and we did do some extra things in there to make it that you can pick things up off the floor a little bit easier, because different people have different setups, and if you kind of line up your hands in game where your hands in real life are, well, your controller is sticking out from that, and so it's going to naturally hit the ground first. But but we did do some things to try to mitigate that as well as we could. So yeah, I'm glad it's working out.
such a small thing that you noticed,
but it was such a big like I said. There's it's funny because sometimes it's like the little things in VR experiences that throw off what happens with the user. And it's those little kind of touches that I think make the price of freedom so good.
No, I'll agree with that. I mean, I actually have a real world example of today, just trying out a game where an essential tool needed fell on the floor and I couldn't reach it. So, great job with that.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, and also a lot of the things that are absolutely essential to drive the story. That's another thing that we struggled with too, is how do we make sure that you still have access to those things that you need to, like keys, the pill cups and anything like that. So there are some points where you do need to kind of do some snapping or some creative ways of, repositioning things in case if the player does insist on trying to, kind of sabotage that effort.
Yeah.
Sabotage themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'd like to. I feel like we're getting so close to revealing too much about the game, and I want to keep it as fresh for anyone who's listening and has not tried it out. You guys got to make sure you try it out. But I'm thinking we can transition to maybe what the next steps for you guys are in the near future and also further out. And maybe just focusing on the near future first. Just reading online and following what you guys are up to. It looks like you guys will be at Sundance coming up soon. And I don't know. I just wanted to ask you how that. Is that a big deal for you guys? First of all, congrats if it is or it is not. Still, I think it's for us. It's very cool to see, narrative-driven things or apps like this getting the recognition that they deserve. But yeah, I just wanted to get your perspective on that and what you're expecting from that experience.
Yeah, so we've been showing at the HTC booth. At the Sundance Film Festival. It's not actually part of Sundance itself. It's right in that same complex, though. And it's been pretty well received so far. And we're still hoping to build up a little bit of that fan base. Just trying to get some people to start noticing this project that we just released pretty recently. And our plans are to keep on going with this series. So we have a lot of material that we hope to work off of. MK Ultra, is one of these real government projects that went on from the 50s all the way up into the 80s. And a lot of the stories are even crazier than we could ever present.
It does scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we have a lot to work on.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then... Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead. I was just going to say, because, along the lines of your series, I don't know that we fully got into kind of what the inspiration was behind you guys actually choosing this type of narrative and kind of like, how did this come about? Like, how did you decide to really,
I
guess why this theme, I guess.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a story there.
So I actually spent some time in the military prior to going to grad school and all that, and then used the GI Bill actually to take me through school. So I've had a lot of experience, especially with government documents and stuff like that, and with kind of the way that especially that mindset and that complacency of constantly feeling as though you're kind of making the right move, even though you aren't necessarily always making the right moves. And we see that as kind of a reoccurring theme in MK Ultra too, especially with the fight against, Soviet aggression and, these attempts to combat communism. It really, it forced a lot of the decisions to go in directions that weren't necessarily ethical or even productive, really. So that's kind of a theme in what we're touching on, and also I guess just kind of that I don't know.
Well, you came to me. You already had the concept when I joined. So yeah, we were kind of looking at first. When people address MK Ultra, it tends to be more from the perspective of it tends to go kind of sci-fi, Stranger Things type stuff, where it's like, now they have psychic powers and so on. And I think as we got more and more into it, really reading about it and learning about it, we were kind of like, there's a real story here. This is stuff that they really tried to do. And while we certainly fictionalized aspects of it, everything that we covered, all the documents you find so far, they're based on real documents, and this was absolutely the sort of thing that was in the in what they were trying to do.
And even Dr. Angle is loosely based off of a real character. Westgate Psychiatric. That's
real place.
Yeah, that's based off of a real place. Even Sub-Project 68 and a lot of those goals and everything. So yeah, a lot of this is just taken right out of history and just put it in a more digestible format.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. So just thinking about it now, I guess the implications for virtual reality, not just in gaming or not just in storytelling, but more so maybe even in education. because you guys, you did a lot of research for this. It's based on a lot of, history and actual fact. And though the narrative was, fictionalized, like you said, I feel like there's a very big area for people to give like an immersive history lesson into something. And I know that's not what you guys are doing, but like there is some sense of that where you're shedding light on, projects and things that were done in the past, obviously putting a different spin on it.
And in a way that I think actually makes the person viewing or being, an integral part of the experience actually kind of feel what it might be like to be in a situation like that, or really, like, I think you learn from the experience in a more personal way than you would just watching a video or reading about it.
Yeah. Well, I guess I know it's kind of more of a tangent, but like, was that something you had planned initially, or was it more so just like the idea of giving people that experience, or was there that, sense of, this is something that actually happened, and we don't necessarily want to shed light on it, to teach people, but I guess in whatever capacity, what did that ever come to mind?
I think that's something that we kind of evolved into.
Yeah.
So we started out, we realized that, especially on terms of VR, the subject matter was perfect for it. This whole idea of kind of mind control and, some of those indirect control type of necessities that you have in designing an interactive experience. And then over time, as we started to dig into these stories and we started to find these real facts, and we started to realize, kind of, I guess, how dramatic this stuff was without really fictionalizing it too much. We realized that we had an opportunity to tell even more of a serious and, I guess more of an impactful story than we ever could have, just having it purely fiction.
Yeah, because I think we started out more of a, fun, spy drama with maybe some kind of trippy elements, and then it turned into something else, something more. And we did know, sorry?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so we did know from our work on Imago that, the ability for the VR narrative to create empathy, to put you sort of in the shoes of another person and then let you act on that. It's just really powerful. It's something that the medium is really great at, maybe in a way that no other medium is. And so I think that as well was sort of, was an influence of, let's use this medium for that as well.
Yeah, just going off of it, and again, without giving any information away about the price of freedom itself, but since we are kind of going to be moving on to talking about some of what you guys are going to be working on in the future, and the additional the next steps in your series, is it difficult to kind of follow up? I mean, obviously you took a very specific approach with the price of freedom, in that it's your first episode, I guess, of the series, however you want to refer to it as. So the player comes into the price of freedom really not knowing fully what to expect. And I think you kind of, bombard them with this tone and this narrative, and it's very strong, and you leave with a very, strong, lasting impression. Moving forward, are you looking to create experiences that are, that are kind of self-reliant, that don't really, that start from ground zero again, and is it difficult, I guess, as in developing the narrative, if you're going to, be creating experiences for people that are hopefully sticking with you guys on your journey and going from project to project to kind of, start anew again? I guess, what is it challenging to do that, and how, and what are some of the ways that you guys have kind of approached that problem?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we tried to keep it kind of simple with this first one. So really focus on you coming into it without really knowing what's going on. You thinking that you're some sort of spy, and then as you actually get into it, then we do that flip. But that's something that we can't always rely on or lean on, for the future episodes. So we've been considering different ways to, still have this a short experience where you could dive into it. You still get an idea of what's going on. It's still self-contained. But then having that as part of this larger, broader conspiracy, of MK Ultra, and kind of seeing where now your small piece of this narrative fits into this broader collective narrative. So we're still hoping to kind of keep that small self-contained package, but scaling that up on terms of a full 4 or 5 episodes where once you hit the end of it, then you're kind of looking back and seeing all these different pieces that have added to this full conspiracy that you finally put together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just curious, like looking at more specifically the future episodes coming out. Will they be in this same format where it's roughly the same amount of time in terms of gameplay, or are you looking to build out something that the longer episodes? I guess another question that might be of relevance, like will they be free, or are you looking to build out fuller titles that people can really sink their teeth into after getting a little taste in Price of Freedom? I'm just curious what it's looking like.
Yeah. So that was our approach. We're going to release the Price of Freedom for free. We really wanted everybody to have it and experience it, and kind of know what we're doing and what we're planning on putting out there. And then we're using almost a similar model to Telltale, in that we'll be releasing the future episodes then either individually or as a complete package that you'll be able to to download.
Yeah, and we are looking at a few different models for how exactly we'll break up that narrative. For one thing, we want to expand it and have something that feels bigger. Of course, I think a lot of people have wanted that too, something that's a little bigger and fuller. At the same time, there's also other models out there, such as VR arcade models, that we're having sort of being able to play something in a 15 to 20 minute chunk fits well. So we're sort of looking at different ways we can do both in a way. Basically break things up in a way that you can get the fuller narrative by playing through, but the sections are sort of separated out, so you can play a smaller section in one setting and then maybe 2 or 3 add up to a full episode. But again, it's a little early days, so no.
Very cool. Well, yeah, it's I guess it's just fascinating to see, in talking with you guys and other developers, like how you balance that, the different types of experiences that you can offer to people, because it seems that HTC as well is pushing this their arcade program, the VR arcade program, and so. I think what you guys are trying to do in terms of having this experience that's available for free, which is 15 to 20 minutes, and I will say the Price of Freedom, it's free, and it has a lot more than a lot of other paid games out there, and I'm not saying that lightly. I think both Ronnie and I, and just in talking with our audience and the response and reaction that we've gotten from our audience about the game, kind of proves that there's a lot to it. People really like the game format, and they like what they were able to get for free, but also just in terms of being able to have experiences like that. And I think, whatever you guys are working on next, there, like you said, building that fan base, you're going to have a lot of people, myself included, that will be very excited to see, what that entails and what comes out.
That's what we hope for.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to hear. That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, we got a couple more questions for you guys. Want to be respectful of your time. This last one, sorry, I don't know why I said the last one. This next one, I guess, isn't necessarily Price of Freedom related, but just more VR in general. And it's a perspective, or it's a question we like to ask, because I feel like as developers, you guys have a unique perspective on the industry, and so it's more so what is one wish that you have for the future of VR platforms? And the hypothetical that we throw out there is, if you were the CEO of HTC or Oculus, where would you be putting your resources, your time, energy? Well, like, where would the focus be in terms of like what's going to help take VR to the next level? Or like, if you have an idea, I guess, in game development, what is something that would really add to the experience if the platform would allow it, if that makes sense?
I think for me is foot tracking.
Yeah.
It would be delightful to actually track the full body. Feet and, even hip position would be wonderful.
Yeah. Which there are some people doing some experiments with that now with the VR tracker and the.
I was just going to ask about that. Is that something that you guys might look to incorporate?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to.
Yeah, it depends on what platforms are out there, but also, I mean, if it's, if you only have a few developer kits out there for one of these, type of systems, then it really doesn't make too much sense to build an experience around it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're always going to keep it to where the biggest market is. So that always makes it difficult to incorporate new technology.
Right, but there you always kind of have to balance. Where's your consumer?
Yeah.
Which actually, it's not really, it's kind of a selfish answer, but I think the VR industry and the VR medium is going to live or die by its content. If there isn't good content out there, and it's not good content that people have easy access to, and it's fairly priced and so on, then it will not make it as strong as an entertainment medium. So I really, I want to see, and not saying that they aren't working on that now, of course, but, it's still pretty early, and I want to see, more things out there, more complexity. There seems to almost be a fear of complexity in designing for VR. And we've even, heard some of that. They tend to not want to design experiences that take longer than 15 minutes. And I don't know. I want some more of that. You may agree or disagree. I don't know. But, yeah.
Well, I respect that quite a bit because you guys are definitely walking the walk in terms of that. I mean, you released like I said, a title that it's not a pushover by any means, and for something that's free, I feel like it offers quite a bit of value for people who have the Vive headset. So great job on that.
Thanks.
So
yeah.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Is there anything else?
Oh, well, just haptic feedback too. I think that's really going to change a lot of things too. Once you're actually able to reach out and touch the world around you, and then of course, if you could actually overlay that, once AR comes along, that's going to be a platform that we definitely hop on when it comes to telling narrative type of experiences for it. But,
yeah. I think, and a lot of the things I want to see, things like haptic, more integrated, things like just fair resolution. Of course, our experience is very reading based, so that sometimes that's difficult. But I think some of that is just the result of the medium and how it's going to keep the technology itself. So not really new things, but just improvements. Oh, wireless. Yeah. Oh, I hate these wires.
Well, we're almost there, just a couple months away, right?
Yes, I know.
No, going along those same lines, just curious about, because that was something that I was thinking about asking earlier and then just didn't find the right time to mention it. But talking about, I guess, room scale and I guess bringing in like larger environments. Price of Freedom is, mostly in a small environment. And I know you were talking about, kind of, developing, where the users are. And I know right now, the headsets all have varying degrees of abilities and whatnot when it comes to room scale. But is developing a game for a larger environment something that is appealing when you're creating something more narrative based, or does it add too many unknowns to the equation and make it too difficult to kind of guide a player in one direction or another?
I think we would love to be in a larger environment. In a lot of ways, having a small environment adds a lot more restraint in what you can and can't do. If you just had, rooms that were just completely the size of a regular room and you could go anywhere in that room, then, that'd be brilliant. But we started this project, we were looking at sort of the statistics of owners of Vive. And even the people that own Vive have it set up using room scale. This is the most common size, the 2.5 by 2 meters or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so we sort of decided early on we were going to support that. And yeah.
And also one of our main goals is to push out to China and other Asian audiences. And, generally, they don't have as large of play spaces. So, we're really trying to make sure that it's as accessible as possible, and that anybody, no matter what size room they have, they can still play the experience. Really just to make sure that everybody, has no reason but to play our game. That was our goal.
Right. And then too, like you mentioned, right now, different platforms have different support for room scale. So, and since we made the decision sort of early on not to do blink or teleporting, that did sort of mean, okay, we're going to have small environments. And that's we just sort of tried to find little tricks we could here and there to make it feel bigger than it really was. And whether that's going to be sustainable when we're doing sort of upcoming episodes, since we do, of course, we want to expand that narrative. We'll have to look at that. But for this, that was definitely a big goal we had.
No, that makes sense. So.
No, I mean, there's a lot that you can do in a 360 space around you without having to move around a bigger room. And the fact that there were several different environments that you could be involved with the game, with the price of freedom in just a short segment that it is. I don't think that was ever an issue, not having blink or not having any type of teleportation. And like you were saying earlier, Joel, it was the idea of not taking people out of the immersion, I guess, not taking people out of VR, not having anything that's user interface. So that makes a lot of sense to me now. And I think that, I guess you can't have every experience in a tiny room moving forward, but still, I think what you're able to do, there's still so much that people can do in a short, not in a short, but in that 360 environment. And by putting them in several of them, I think that really adds to the gameplay. Yeah, no,
and actually one of the reasons why I was thinking about bringing it up earlier was just the fact that I think the Price of Freedom does it very well. Similarly, kind of one of the games that I had in mind when I thought of how you guys use the space to a degree, and this is definitely a compliment, was Unseen Diplomacy, because that game is cool in that it lets you explore a larger environment without ever having to use anything like blink or teleportations, by kind of managing the play area well, and getting you to move along different paths that are included in the play space. And the Price of Freedom did that to some extent when you were moving through from door to door, and then the way you guys did the secret compartment in that one area where it moves but you're still in the same general area, and all that stuff I thought was done really well. And I was kind of curious as to what it definitely did seem like it was a very a very conscious decision that you guys made that the player wouldn't be using these artificial means of moving, that they would just move in their own actual space. So was that something that you guys did for narrative purposes, and you just didn't want to pull people out of the experience, or what kind of was some of the logic behind those decisions?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things. It was really trying to keep that continuity, but also just a matter of training them on or not training them on some sort of teleporting mechanic. And also, at least for this experience, we didn't feel like we really needed to push outside of that. We were able to keep it self-contained and just kind of small and a little bit closer. And another advantage of that is that it makes people feel a little bit more claustrophobic and a little bit more nervous, I think.
Yeah.
So that also kind of lends itself to the story, because, you know, it's adding a little bit more pressure onto the player, and it's making them feel a little bit more uncomfortable, which is exactly the feeling that we're trying to elicit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And especially in the assassination scene, if you notice, the room actually even morphs quite a bit. The ceiling gets taller. You know, we kind of push them a little bit further away from you. So we're once again pulling in those psychedelic aspects to justify some of those things that we needed to from a story perspective and from a design perspective. You know, and also kind of treating it more like a place in your mind, you know, opposed to an actual physical, you know, location, I guess, which is something that we're also going to be going back to in future episodes. So we really want to push that even further.
Yeah, and we did play Unseen Diplomacy. Pretty much, that was about one of the. I think I showed up like that first day. That first day, and you were chuckling. Was like, okay, here, you got to play this. This is what's up.
Yeah.
And of course, I have a background in UX UI design and development. So I was always the one who was like, you could just make a button, it'd be so easy. And she was like, no,
it's not a game.
Make no, you know, or I'm like, you need instructions for explaining things. No. Okay, fine.
Yeah. You had to fight the natural instincts on that one, but it was. I mean, Joel, good job with sticking with your guns. Like I said, I mean, just thinking about it now, just thinking about it now on the back end, like it really is very different from a lot of the other experiences out there because it lacks that user interface. So
yeah.
No,
I never doubted what was going on. It made my life really difficult.
So we're not trying to pitch you guys against each other. We want those future episodes out, please.
Yeah, it's easy for you to say this. You're just the 3D artist. Whatever.
It's always a challenge, though. Designing anything in VR is always.
It really is.
But it's always fun too, because, you know, there's no rules already written. You know, there's a language for film. There's language for, you know, books and even theater and, you know, even video games now. But as far as VR, I mean, it's the Wild West in terms of storytelling. So we just kind of make things up, see if it works. Usually it doesn't, and then we, you know, pivot and try something else.
Well, yeah, even I mean, you were mentioning, you know, warping the dimensions of the room while, you know, during the assassination and everything. Like, honestly, when you just explained that now, it kind of took me back to how I felt when I first experienced it. And it really was a weird experience going from the one scene where you were, you know, part of the assassination to the next scene where you're in the room with, you know, the person dead. And like literally thinking back to it now, like, I remember there being a weird disconnect in my own thinking when I went from the one environment to the other, because I was like, wait, like, I've been here before, but it looks different than I remember it, and it's not like 100% natural. Like you explaining it to me just now kind of put it in perspective, but I didn't totally like it left me in like a weird, awkward kind of, like, I'm sure the way I was supposed to be feeling at the time, you know, experience. So it's pretty cool, actually. Like that's really, really neat how you guys told the story that way.
Yeah. And some of that was frankly just technical, you know, because we're doing all this stuff with, you know, no blink. It's all just moving your play space around. You know, there are moments like that where it's like, well, we got to get the play space lined back up with the room. And that's, you know, so we got to figure out some way to do that. And
but it was all seamless. Like, I never really, it didn't register like that was happening to me. It just kind of.
Yeah. Because, we did a couple tricks there that every once in a while someone will notice, but most people, they get maybe something felt odd, but they don't know exactly why. And
well, you know, sometimes that saying less is more, and, you know, just, I guess, by restricting yourself from a certain asset or a certain ability that most people make use of, you know, it forces you to become creative in other ways to tell a narrative or to add these certain effects. So That's really cool that you're able to come up with something like that, even if it was, you know, born on some type of technicality.
Yeah.
So, well, that was actually quite a few more questions than we were able to ask, but we appreciate you guys taking the time today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Our last one isn't really a question. It's more so just a chance for you guys to give a shameless plug. You know, how can people connect with you? Obviously, the game is on Steam and on Viveport. We're going to make sure that we link to it in the show notes. But if there's any parting thoughts you guys wanted to leave, you know, our listeners with, and for everyone listening, just go get the game. I know if you've listened through it through this episode, there might have been a couple of plot points given, but it's still a fantastic experience, and you know, best of all, it's free, so you have no excuse, and just even going through the interview, the dimensions, everything, you guys literally have no excuse if you've listened through this interview. But you know, you guys mentioned you're trying to build out a fan base. How can people who are fans connect with you, and you know, maybe stay up to date with when these you know, future episodes are coming out, or the development cycle and things like that?
Yeah.
Well, I think the first thing, you know, just like us on Facebook. We keep that pretty well updated, both on Construct Studio and the Price of Freedom.
And what's the link for that? It's facebook.com/
I think it should be Construct Studio.
I think it's Construct Studio.
Yeah, and just the Price of Freedom. Yeah, and you should be able to just plug it right into Facebook and find it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll make sure we link to that as well.
Yeah. And we're going to be releasing a Chinese version, hopefully pretty soon, within the next couple of weeks.
The next couple of weeks, by the end, we're aiming for, you know, Chinese New Year is this. I believe it's this weekend. That's kind of our. Yeah.
So we should have a new update, you know, with some little things fixed, but mostly with the Chinese version available. We're hoping to push out onto other platforms. We're hoping Oculus and maybe even PlayStation VR by mid this year. And then, you know, within the next couple of months, we're just putting together, you know, the story to go forward. And we're hoping to have another episode done by the end of the year, is our goal.
Yes.
So, you know, people, you know, we've been uploading some trailers and stuff like that, some behind the scenes type of stuff, so people could, you know, kind of figure out what we're doing and where we're going to be going.
Yeah, and we do have a behind the scenes sort of look that's going to be coming out here. I know we'll put it up on Steam, and but it'll be on our website, which is constructstudio.co, and Facebook, which is probably always the first and best place to check out our stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'll make sure that we link to all that in the show notes. But guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and you know, best of luck with the upcoming episodes. I know I'm not the only one who's excited for the story to go on, and yeah, we're excited. I'm really looking forward to 2017.
Awesome.
Yeah, so are we. Thank you.
So for everybody listening, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you check out The Price of Freedom. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. So definitely subscribe, and make sure you check out the game. And with that, we will talk to you all very soon.